Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 226. Why recognizing your needs is a game changer. All right, well, welcome back to this month, which, as you know, if you've been listening, has been all about self-confidence and how to honor the real you. Last week we got brave, didn't we? Because we got into how to know when big changes need to happen in our lives, then how to start gathering the courage to make them real. Well, a part of that process, I think, naturally, is addressing unmet needs. And so this week, I want to talk about how, just like working on boundaries, life gets so much better when we take care of our psychological and our emotional needs. I think many people get caught up in thinking that, well, they have a roof over their head and food in the fridge, so what's there to complain about? And relative to other people who don't have those things, yes, we should be very grateful. And that's why Maslow's hierarchy of needs puts the foundational air, shelter, food, water, and security at the bottom, because of course we need those met before we can even think about anything else. But what about the emotional needs? Too many clients I've sat with over the years learned early on in life how to ignore, stuff, and outright deny these needs. And that, my friends, is what gets us into trouble. We are not okay if needs are not being met, no matter what we tell ourselves and others. And what I often find myself talking to clients about is, here's the deal. I'm not binary on a whole lot of things. But on this one, I am. We are either going to get those needs met in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. There's no gray, right? Well, there's periods of frustration when we are building a fire of resentment and overwhelm and all those things. But there's no third option like, I'm good, I don't need those met, and I'm still okay. That's what I mean. A lot of acting out, a lot of self-destructive behavior, a lot of lack of self-care can be pointed to not taking care of emotional and psychological needs. But before we get into all that, I want to share again that the course is live and available at a discount for a little while only, so make sure you click the link in the show notes. Get in there and sign up because early bird pricing won't be there forever. And if you like the material that we talk about here on the podcast, if you find yourself resonating with things that I'm bringing up here, that course may very well be for you. And there's also a great group of folks doing the course right now and getting a lot out of the group coaching. So now is a wonderful time to jump in there. All right, so back to needs. So what do I mean by emotional and psychological needs? Well, they're the essential aspects of our well-being and our mental health. They encompass a range of needs that I think are related to our emotional and our mental states. So here are some of them. All right, first, let's talk about emotional needs. First one is love and affection. The need to give and receive love, care, and affection from others is so fundamental for our emotional well-being. Emotional bonds and connections are vital for a million different reasons, and we could do a whole episode just on that. But I think it's safe to say that you can't go without them. Validation, there's a big one. The need for other people to recognize, acknowledge, and validate our emotions, our thoughts, and our experiences. Because validation helps us feel understood and valued and not crazy. So you hear me talk all the time on this show about how to build self-trust. Well, that's a big one. We need that. We also need to give that to ourselves. So I want you to think this week how well you're validating yourself. Security, feeling emotionally and physically safe is crucial. You can't do much else if you don't feel safe. We know that. And a sense of security fosters emotional stability, and reduces our anxiety and fear. 180 that with someone struggling with some PTSD after a traumatic event. They're not feeling safe. They have so much anxiety and fear, and they don't feel very stable. The need for autonomy. The need for independence and personal agency. That means we can make choices and decisions that empower us and supports our emotional well-being. We can believe in ourselves. There's efficacy there, right? Belonging and connection is another one. Humans are inherently social beings. Even if you're introverted, you still need people. You need social connections, and you need a sense of belonging. Loneliness and isolation can have a lot of adverse emotional and psychological effects, not to mention on our stress level and how our body plays that out. Okay, so let's talk about some psychological needs. And so many of these are intertwined, right? I'm talking about them separately, but know that they're well connected. Self-esteem. The need for a positive self-image and self-worth is so important. It is crucial for confidence and well-being, I think, and a lot of other things as well. Making good decisions, practicing self-care, taking responsibility, having healthy relationships. Competence is another one. We need to feel capable and effective in our own actions and pursuits. Experiencing competence contributes to a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. It's not about ego all the time. This is about we need to feel like we can, again, have agency and do things. Connected to that, I think, is meaning and purpose. A sense of purpose and meaning in life is a psychological need, not a wish or a desire. I know a lot of people talk about it that way, but that's not the case. It gives us a reason to strive and helps with motivation and well-being. I think it also is another puzzle piece to who we are. I don't think it can be ignored. I've never sat with a human where after they've done some healing work, they organically turn towards, why am I here? What is it all about? And what is my purpose? Autonomy again, but in the psychological realm, autonomy refers to the need for self-determination and healthy control over our life and our choices. We're not being controlled or held hostage, in other words, by situations or people or both. Cognitive stimulation. We need intellectual growth and mental stimulation. We need intellectual challenges and learning opportunities because they're really important for us. They keep us learning and growing. They keep our brain healthy. And then there's mastery and achievement. The desire to set and accomplish goals, whether they're personal or professional, is a psychological need. They contribute to our sense of mastery, and we need to feel like we can master something, whatever that is, or whatever those things are. It doesn't matter. And then self-actualization. So at the top of the psychological needs scale is self-actualization, which Abraham Maslow said refers to our desire for personal growth, creativity, and the realization of our full potential, and often giving back to the world, helping others after we've helped ourselves. So meeting these needs is so essential if we want to maintain our mental health, if we want any modicum of happiness, and if you just want overall well-being. When these needs are not met, it can lead to emotional distress, mental health issues, and just a general dissatisfaction in life. Looking at and addressing these needs, I think, is a crucial aspect of personal development and your self-care. So I want to go back a little bit in time and talk about where this all started and talk about the basic psychological and emotional needs that children have that are fundamental for their healthy emotional development. Because I want you to go back and think about your own childhood and see if these needs were met for the most part. And if you're not sure, there's something to look at there. The big one that's obvious is love and affection. Love is such a cornerstone of a child's emotional development. That includes both the love receives from their caregivers and the love they give in return. Love provides emotional security and comfort and a sense of belonging. It helps kids form secure attachments and a positive self-image, which will affect every aspect of their life, especially their grown-up partnerships. Safety and security. Kids need to feel safe physically and emotionally. A secure environment and pretty much predictable routines are really going to contribute to their sense of safety. They know what to expect. When kids feel safe, they can explore the world and their emotions without fear. But when it's chaotic at home, where there aren't great boundaries, and there's eggshells on the floor, and sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's really not great, and they don't know what to expect, that's not good. They need validation and recognition. Kids require validation for their feelings, for their thoughts, and their experiences. When their parents acknowledge and validate their emotions, it really helps them develop a healthy self-esteem and emotional intelligence. The big thing is they learn to trust their own feelings and gain a sense of self-worth. That's a big deal. They need attention and engagement from their caregivers, meaningful interactions like active listening, quality time. Those things foster emotional connections. We know that. And a sense of importance, though. Sometimes we don't think about that because these experiences help kids feel valued and heard, that their parents took time with them. Quality time. Supportive caregivers offer guidance and encouragement. They don't just let them run amok. Kids need assistance in problem solving, developing skills, and achieving their goals. They need positive reinforcement and constructive feedback because that helps build confidence and competence. So boundaries are good, right? Boundaries and guidance and encouragement. So these are needs that should have been met in childhood for the most part. If a child was going to have a strong sense of self, have any resilience, and the ability to form healthy relationships, literally. When these needs are consistently met on average, kids are more likely to grow into emotionally secure and well-adjusted adults. Hopefully you could look back there and see what needs were met, which ones weren't. Maybe if something happened in your life, like if someone has a pretty much happy home, but then dad passes away when they're 11, things are really dramatically going to change after that. You could have both. You could have a timeline of things where things were better, things weren't, and give that some serious thought. Speaking of serious thought, so what are the consequences of unmet needs? In other words, ignoring or neglecting our needs or having your needs neglected or ignored as a kid. Unmet needs can really have a significant impact, and I don't think we talk about them enough. It could impact our psychological and our physical well-being. So let's talk about the emotional distress. Well, obvious is frustration and discontent. I think you already guessed that one. When basic needs like love, validation, and security are unmet, we're going to experience frustration, dissatisfaction, and a sense of emotional distress. We might feel unfulfilled and empty. And the kicker is we might not realize this because we pretend we're fine because we say we stay so damn busy that we may not notice it. Or we may blame it on surface things, but deep down, we might be afraid to look at, let's say, the quality of our relationships, or if you're working in an environment that you're not getting healthy feedback from your boss and your coworkers, and it is kind of toxic and unhealthy, well, you're not getting needs met. It causes low self-esteem. Unmet emotional needs are a big deal, and that's why in the course, I do a whole module on this, because it is really important. Especially the ones that are related to validation and self-esteem, you really can grow up with low self-worth and a lot of self-doubt. People are going to question their value and their competence, and this is no lie. How many people have I sat with over the years grew up in families that had a hard time meeting validation needs and how it really impacted them as grown-ups. Anxiety and depression, oh yes. And you can have that functional depression that we keep talking about and still go to work and function, but you're not okay. The lack of emotional support and fulfillment can lead to a persistent sense of sadness, hopelessness, and worry, and worse. Here's another one that I think is really good to take a look at. Anger and irritability. Unmet needs can manifest as anger, irritability, or emotional outbursts, like losing your shit over something stupid. We can become more prone to negative emotions and reactions. Just really, turning kind of negative slowly over time. Because we're not recognizing that we have needs that are going unmet because we're afraid to look at those. Relationship issues, of course, they're going to strain relationships with others. When our needs are unmet, it can lead to lots of conflict, misunderstandings, and a breakdown in communication and intimacy. And if you're not getting needs met in that relationship, like let's say your partner or your family member is not meeting those needs, they don't validate you. In fact, they might put you down, or they might gaslight you, or they might do lots of things. You're going to have lots of conflict because you're fighting for them to get it, right? For them to change, perhaps. Which doesn't work, by the way. Increased stress, yes. Persistent unmet needs, like chronic, are going to lead to elevated stress levels. Here comes your cortisol. The emotional and psychological strain from unmet needs contributes to chronic stress, which, of course, is going to have adverse effects on our physical health. Here's one I want you to take a hard look at, maybe for yourself or those that you love: coping mechanisms. So, in response to our unmet needs and the stress that they cause, guess what we do? We turn to maladaptive coping mechanisms, like overeating, substance abuse, acting out in some sort of way, which just really just compounds the stress, right? We're not helping ourselves here. We're trying to medicate and numb out the fact that we're not okay and our needs are not being met. And then big impacts on our decision making. It just really impairs our ability to make sound decisions. We're not going to make decisions based on self and what we need in our life and what we're responsible for. Because again, if we're disconnected from what we need, we are disconnected from a lot of who we really are at the core. Okay, so that gives you a sense there. Oh, there's more. I'm not going to stop here. Physical health issues. Weakened immune system. Here's a big one. Chronic stress, right? Chronic stress associated with unmet emotional and psychological needs can weaken our immune system. So we're going to get more illness and more infections. Cardiovascular problems. We can have high blood pressure and an increase in heart disease, and that's no joke as you're getting older. Digestive issues. Here's a big one that I think a lot of people go to the doctors and try to get that IBS treated, and they're not talking to someone about their stress and what's really going on in their life. Stomach ulcers and IBS can be directly tied, I think, in a lot of people that I've sat with, to unmet needs, unhealthy relationships that had some needs being met, but not all, and that person was just so afraid to admit that. Sleep disorders. High stress is going to make it hard for us to sleep. We're going to have insomnia. We're going to wake up early. We're going to wake up in the middle of the night, which again compounds our health issues because that really can negatively impact our health. Weight gain or loss. We can do stress eating. We can do stress-related overeating. We can undereat. We can put too much weight on or not put enough on. Headaches and pain. We can have headaches, muscle tension, chronic pain, all the things. And there's more, right? But that just gives you a sense of the fact that it doesn't do us any good to ignore this stuff. It's going to play out. It's going to play out probably with physical manifestations, emotional and psychological. So recognizing and addressing these unmet emotional and psychological needs is really crucial, guys. It's important if you want to prevent emotional distress, reduce your stress levels, and maintain some decent physical health. Okay, so how do we go about this? Well, first, self-awareness. Maybe I said some things today that got your attention, or maybe this is something you've already been trying to work on, but are not really sure where to start. So self-awareness is critical because we want to recognize and understand what our needs are and then see if they're being met and see if there are changes we might need to make in our life to get them met. And that's where boundaries come in. I think boundaries and needs go hand in hand personally. I can't go take care of myself and take some time off if I don't say no to work, right? Or if I don't say no to other things. A lot of people tell me, Mary, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know what I need. That's what they say. And that's okay. If you grew up in situations where, just like we talked about in childhood earlier, where those needs weren't going to get met, and you kind of knew that as a kid, and then you also probably put situations and people in your life today who also don't meet your needs because, and again, that's a whole nother show, then you have disconnected from all of that. And that's okay. We're just going to reconnect. So here are some things that you can start doing and some things to think about with this. So recognizing how you feel is a big one. Self-awareness involves acknowledging our emotions as they come up, in the moment. Because, there's signals that something's happening or that a need is not being met. If you start recognizing and trying to label your emotions, and we'll talk about that in a minute, you can then begin to identify some unmet needs. And this takes a while. It's a process, but it's doable. Understand your triggers. When you stop and notice, just with no judgment, just notice, you're going to recognize the triggers or situations that are going to prompt certain emotional responses, if you know what I mean. And so try to pay attention to that. You're not going to stop yourself from having that emotional response, and I don't want you to. I just want you to pay attention. The other thing that everyone struggles with at first is what's a need and what's a want. And if you grew up in a family that messed with your head, you don't need that. You don't need a cookie. You have enough clothes. You don't want to play anymore. It's time for bed. It's going to take you a hot minute to get back to differentiating between needs and wants, but you can do it. So self-awareness allows you, I think, to discern whether a desire is a need that should be prioritized or a want that can be set aside for later. And that's a process. That's why I listed a whole bunch of needs today, and they're not even all of them, guys. Go online. Look for emotional psychological needs list, and you'll see a whole bunch of them. From that way, you can have a place to start. The big piece in this, too, is prioritize your self-care. Step away, get some time for yourself. That way you can identify when it's time to take a break, when you need support, encouragement, or if you need engagement or whatever you need. So here are some things that can help, too. And one basic thing that I have clients do all the time is just stop, take a moment inside your head. No one knows you're doing this. 5 or 6 times a day, if you can manage that. If you're really slammed, 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay. You're going to take a moment and say, how am I doing? What's going on? What do I think I'm feeling and why? Maybe I worked all morning and I worked through lunch and I'm starving. Okay, that makes sense. And just tell yourself that makes sense. You're not allowed to say, oh, you're fine. You don't need that. Okay. Just notice no wonder I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 4 hours. So just notice. Don't judge. You don't have to act on it yet. Just validate. You're giving that mirroring back to yourself. Do you see that? It's magic. There are other things that we are told can really help, and one is mindfulness meditation. It can help you become more attuned to your emotions and your physical sensations. And there's a million out there, guys. Go on YouTube if you want to find something free. And there's body tune-in exercises that you can do. Because again, if you're disconnected from what you need, you're probably out of your body, right? You're disconnected from how tense you feel, or if you have a headache, or if you're tired. It would have to take something really big to get your attention. So we want to change that. Journaling is another great thing that you can do, because you're going to write about your experiences that day, your emotions, your needs. Can be a really powerful tool, okay? Because you're going to get insights into what you need. You're going to tap into your core self if you do it right. Reflective questioning. What am I feeling right now? What do I need in this moment? Like, I'm tired, I need a break. Or I'm really bored, I want to go take a class or go call somebody and talk. I want to learn something new. I want to clean my house. I want a vacation. I need a break. I've been working too much. And then seek feedback, but caveat, you hear me say this all the time, get healthy feedback from healthy folks. You can't talk to people about what you need if they're not taking care of their own needs. If they are martyring, if they're on that cross, it's going to be hard for them to say, yeah, man, take a day off of work. You deserve it. Because they can't let themselves do that. Get feedback from a therapist, a coach, some friends, a good group. They may be able to offer some insights that could be helpful too, that things you're not even thinking about. The other thing you can do is do an emotion wheel. You can go online and look at those and see what they are. And it's really just to be able to literally label your emotions. Like, if you didn't get that validation growing up, you may be very unsure, outside of anger, what you're feeling or what you should feel in this moment. Like, what would anybody feel? And so it's really important for us to label our feelings at first. After a while, you automate this and you get really good at tapping in. But at first, if you struggle, don't be ashamed of that. That's not your fault. Kids need mirroring and validation for what they feel. So, in other words, are you happy? Are you feeling excited? Are you content? Are you neutral? Are you sad? Are you anxious? Are you angry? Are you afraid? Are you conflicted? Lots of things that we can feel. So, just like getting in touch with what you need, getting in touch with what you feel can feel squirrely at first, and that's okay. It's normal. Just keep doing it. It takes time, it takes practice and validation from others. And guys, that's why I say you can't do this work alone. And that's why I built a course. And that's why I have a Facebook group. Get in there, get support if you don't already have people around you, because we need to bounce stuff off other people too. And they can validate, well, of course you're upset. Or I guess you are really excited. I would be too. Because what you're doing is you're internalizing all that mirroring that you never got. Eventually, you won't have to take a poll. You're going to tap in so quickly and say, well, yeah, I'm pissed. Of course I am. And you're going to validate yourself. Okay. So I want to finish and talk quickly about the other struggle that people have in terms of, Mary, how do I balance what I need and those in my personal and professional relationships? And that's more complex. And we're not going to get into that deeply now, but I did want to mention there is a way to strike balances, and it takes work and it takes practice. And so first, let's talk about your individual needs versus your relationship needs. That can be tricky sometimes, and we can feel torn, of course, between what we want for ourselves and what's best for the relationship. The solution is negotiating, right? If it's your partner or if your sibling, it's negotiating. Discussing your needs, their needs, and trying to hammer out a compromise is the best thing. If it's your kids, then you have to put boundaries around it. Like, yeah, you're going to feed and clothe them and take care of them, but you also need time for yourself. And it's not selfish to not vacuum and instead go take a hot bath or take a nap because you need a rest. Boundaries is a big thing. We have to set boundaries, but it is difficult and a whole paradigm shift to start doing that. Because we're afraid of rejection and we're afraid that someone's going to tell us you don't need that and you're crazy. Okay, so one of the solutions is working on your boundaries hand in hand with needs, and get support around you around setting boundaries, loving guidance, accountability, and support and encouragement. Finding a balance between your self-care and, let's say, if you have kids and if you have a job and if you have a family, it's really, to me, about boundaries. Well, I got to look at my week and see when I can take an hour for myself. And make sure it's balanced. Make sure I'm not doing everything for everyone 24/7 and neglecting my health, my stress level. That I'm setting boundaries with my partner around housework. That I'm setting boundaries with my sibling around taking care of mom as she's getting older. That kind of thing. Boundaries with work, we have to set them there too. So that's why I say they go hand in hand, and it's really important to take your time. First, recognize what you need. Recognize how you feel when a need goes unmet versus when it does get met. And one of those things, before we go, I want to say, you don't see till hindsight. You know what I mean? It's like a week later you realize, wow, I haven't been sleeping well and I feel like crap. Or actually, I feel great because I've been working out 3 days a week. Or I've been laying off the sugar, or I've been checking in with my friends a couple times a week and I feel better. I feel more connected. So you're going to see the correlations. That's why the awareness piece is so important. Just start noticing. And don't beat yourself up if you are not meeting your needs yet. The first step is just recognizing. Eventually, you will meet them because you're going to feel like you need to. And bring lots of self-compassion to the process. Remember to get support and professional help if you need it. All right, so today we delved into the profound significance, I think, of recognizing and understanding our emotional and psychological needs, which are often neglected by a lot of people. We emphasize how self-awareness is the big key that's going to help you unlock the door to fulfilling those needs, which is going to really contribute to your emotional well-being and have more balance in your life. By honing our ability to recognize what our emotions are, our triggers, and our underlying needs, we really empower ourselves to make better decisions, prioritize our self-care, have better physical health, and better relationships. Remember, self-awareness is a journey and it's never too late to start. So begin your journey today, become more in tune with your needs, and watch as your emotional and psychological well-being starts to flourish. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you grabbed some good stuff that can help you. Make sure you hit the show notes and check out the course. Join the Facebook group for support and get the newsletter sent to your inbox. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.